Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Nexus 2.0 and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is What If Naruto x Tayuya x Hana x Temari Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. The 5-year-old Naruto was running from the mob of at least 10 villagers who were pursuing him. All of them brandished some sort of weapons. Pitchforks, sticks, swords, the list goes on to a broken glass bottle. The 5-year-old continued to run until he reached a dead end where he turned to face his tormentors and let the heaven above to decide his fate. The mob cracked a grin as they approached the blonde boy and began their assault. They beat him so bad, his eyes were swollen shut, and he lost 2 front teeth and a lot of blood. At least, he thought, if I die I'll be free from the torture. The thought, however, didn't linger in his mind for long as he heard a voice calling him. Weak, a voice from the back of his head told him. It was from a shrouded figure with no apparent face, only a pair of large crimson eyes. So, very weak, it continued. Who is it? The boy asked fearfully. Even with my gift, you are still so weak, it told him again. By this time, Naruto was confused. Gift. What gift? He possessed nothing. Everything he obtained was only for a moment before someone else from the orphanage took it. Even his clothes were simply left out, bright orange shirt and shorts. What gift? Nobody gives me anything. He yelled poignantly. HMPH. Even after all this time, you still haven't noticed. Then let me give you a last gift, a parting gift. Let's see what you'll do with it, the voice told him. With that said, the dark figure whose voice rang into Naruto's head disappeared, returning the blonde-haired boy to the living world. When he opened his eyes, his pained grimace turned into a heartless smile as the injury his body sustained began healing at an insanely fast rate. Gaping wounds became scabs, scabs turned into slightly discolored skin, slash-inflicted injury disappeared, burn marks turned into fresh skin. After a short, yet powerful blast of chakra, the cerulean-eyed boy promptly stood up and turned to look at his attackers, which backed away. Naruto smiled and a sharp, strong wind blew. Less than a moment later, an anguished cry was let out as a man lost his arms, a woman's arm got shredded, a teenager lost his legs, and another lost an ear. The whiskered boy's sincere smile widened as he let out another torrent of wind which shredded the rest. They lost limbs, ears, noses and fingers, making all 20 of them nothing less than disfigured people. They all were screaming in pain while Naruto looked at them with a mask of happiness. You all are too noisy, but look at the bright side, you now know the suffering that I went through. Upon seeing the display of power, an Anbu member from the Root Division appeared and knelt before Naruto could cause more damage to them. The boy looked nonplussed by this, and with his smile still in place, he asked, Yes, Anbu-san. Naruto-kun, I am here to take you to both Hokage-sama and Danzo-sama. Please comply and follow me, the cat-masked Anbu said. The blonde boy didn't respond, but nodded nonetheless. Upon arrival, both the Jinchuriki and the Anbu were told to go inside where 2 men were waiting inside. One was an old man with a large hat bearing the kanji. He wore a large white robe and was smoking. The other was a black-haired man with a bandaged eye, wearing a black and white robe. They were the Sandaime Hokage and the founder of the or Root Division of Anbu, Danzo. Both stopped their conversation when the door opened. A cat-masked Anbu and a blonde boy entered. Danzo motioned for the masked nin to leave, which he did immediately. Naruto-kun, this man is Danzo, the founder of the Root Division of Anbu, Sarutobi introduced. Are you the Uzumaki Naruto? He asked. Seeing that he had no losses in telling him, the boy did so. Yes, he said. I have heard of your conditions, so to speak. And also of the events that happened today, he continued. That is why it has come to my decision to ensign you to the Root Division of Anbu, Danzo proclaimed. The Hokage didn't disagree to the militaristic man as he said that. At least, he will have some one or several people who will care for him and treat him like he is human, the Hokage thought. Contrary to popular belief that Naruto is an idiot blonde who smiles when he got beaten up, he was in fact, quite a smart boy because he learned everything from the source instead of books and the likes. One such knowledge was one of the jobs of the Nei division of Anbu, eliminating the threats to Konoha. He thought about the consequences of this offer. If he joined, he wouldn't have a childhood anymore because he would be trained to kill at an early age and their training would most likely turn the members into heartless killing machines. On the other hand, if he decided to turn down the offer, he would have to go through his almost non-existent childhood and still be an easy target for the villagers. If he decided to go with it and joined, he would get fear from the villagers, another form of recognition, which he would do anything to receive. Do you have any rejections to this, Jii-chan? Naruto asked. No, the old man said solemnly. Okay then, I will join you, Danzo-san, the blue-eyed boy said with a look of indifference on his face. Excellent. Your training regime shall start immediately, the one-eyed man said. After Naruto's meeting with Danzo and Sarutobi, both men told him to get some rest and go to a specified address written in a piece of paper. The boy went to his room in the orphanage escorted by an Anbu member and slept where in his dreamscape, he heard the mysterious voice again. The protector turned into the destroyer took the facade of a protector. In the end, none can hide their true color for eternity. But which is yours? It recited. The blonde didn't answer because he didn't know the answer yet, but it will be unveiled when it will be, at least that's what he believed. No answer, Perhaps some time to think about it is in order. When you have the answer, boy, I will come to hear it, the voice said, but for now, rest. Tomorrow will be a hard day. By the time the voice disappeared, Naruto awoke feeling more refreshed than he had ever felt before. He flexed his arm and felt that it was more flexible than before. The blonde boy went to the shower, bathed, and brushed his teeth before getting dressed and went to the address written on the paper. When he reached the place, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki was greeted by the same man he met yesterday, Danzo. You're earlier than expected, Naruto-kun, he said. Being early is better than late, Danzo-san, the blonde replied. Indeed, you are the exact opposite of Hitaki Kakashi, the one-eyed man muttered. The Roots leader told Naruto to follow him to a clearing in the forest where many traps were scattered, landmines, shuriken-throwing machines, barbed-wired fences, every single kind of trap and obstacle, you name it, it's there. This will be your training area, he spoke to the surprised Naruto, after you gain the sufficient agility, skill, and speed. You shall train wearing these, Danzo said, pointing to a box filled with weights that said, 10 pounds. Wordlessly, the boy took the weights and wore them. Now, run laps around the village until I tell you to stop. Obediently he did so, running like a turtle due to the weights and became easy target for the scorning villagers of Konohagakure. How many laps do you think he'll be able to run before he collapsed? The Sandaime Hokage asked. 5 at most, 2 at least. This village is quite big for a child like him, came the reply, but why did you let him go with Danzo-sama, Hokage-sama? The Roots are the most efficient form of troop imaginable, the old man sighed, but they are the most heartless. They don't care much about their peers as long as they do their job well. But, wouldn't letting him be in Anbu serve the same purpose? It wouldn't, Kakashi-kun. As you know, in the 73 assassination attempts done on Naruto, 12 were instigated by Anbu members, 24 done by Junin and Chunin alike, and the rest were the villagers, he said. Letting him live among the people who had made an attempt on his life wouldn't give him a sense of security, and should that be done, he might unleash a greater power than he had exhibited before on the mob yesterday night. So, you're saying it's to prevent his insanity? The cycloptic Junin asked. You can put it that way, but there's also another reason. What would that be? The Hokage choked on his words, uncertain of the reaction he might receive, but managed to say, the boy may act as a liaison between me and Danzo, a spy if you will. Those who worked under Danzo were indoctrinated to be loyal to him, but Naruto yields to no one and always does things his way, at least that's the old him. There are also rumors that Danzo would try to obliterate Konoha. I need to ensure the truth about it, so that's why I'm doing this. You do understand, right? Hitaki Kakashi, the copycat ninja, nodded solemnly. Although he didn't really like it, but it was for the village, so who was he to complain? Time skip. 3 years later. Naruto's training went well and finished it right at the supposed time, 3 years flat and 620 pounds on each limb. His training was a walk in the park. A park in a country at war that's constantly bombarded, littered with land mines instead of grass, with gun turrets instead of bushes, and barbed wire fences in the place of trees. Don't forget the lake filled with numerous aquatic predators in it. All in all, it did show the expected result, a strong boy who commands wind and air at his disposal with a small yet growing capacity for telekinesis. At the time he was done with his training, he received his primary mission: eliminate all threats, be it potential or concrete threats to Konoha. He started it off with a Kumo nuke nin he was pursuing at the moment. A large man wearing a Junin jacket and brown shorts was running from his pursuers, 3 Konoha Anbu wearing dog, cat, and fox masks. At first, he had the upper hand, but damn, those guys are quick. As he ran, he was wondering how the hell did these freaks know what he was about to do, attempt to kidnap another Hyuga. The red-haired man spared a glance to his back and saw with his brown eyes that the trio was just about a yard away. In panic, he pumped chakra to his legs and jumped quicker from tree branch to tree branch, but it still didn't seem enough to shake them off. Then, he looked back again and saw that he was now 3 yards away from them. He smiled in victory before he saw an air disruption heading his way. The wave of air sped towards the nuke nin and he ducked in time before it severed his head. He tried to jump again but failed as he felt a warm sensation running down his right arm. I wouldn't look at it if I were you, the Anbu in fox mask said happily. Ignoring the warning, the Kumo nin looked to his shoulder and tried to move it. Just as he moved it forwards, it fell off and traveled downwards to cold dirt. He yelled in agony and rage as he glared at his 3 enemies. The shortest one wearing a fox mask stood the farthest, nearer to him was the one wearing a dog mask, and the nearest to the tormented ninja was the cat-masked one, approximately 1.5 yards away. Before he could blurt out any obscenities at his adversaries, another air disruption appeared and severed his other arm, making him yell out more, and this time, he didn't hold back and threw every curses he had, cursed their parents, their villages, and spewed empty threats. Truly, a dying dog whimpers the loudest, the fox-masked Anbu said as he shook his head. Finally, another burst of wind shot up and severed his head, silencing the Nukenin forever. We have returned, Hokage-sama, the 3 chorused from their position, kneeling down in front of the militaristic man. Good work, you 3, do you have it? The old man asked them. Of course, they said as each set down a black bag from their backs. The one in fox mask opened his first, showing a long black metal staff. The cat-masked one opened his next, showing a black wooden box. Inside it were 5 scrolls neatly set side by side. The dog mask-wearing nin opened his sack last, where a sack of the recently killed Kumogakur Nukenin. Good job. Very good, their leader commented. You may keep the weapon, Naruto-kun. Arigato gozaimasu, Hokage-sama, came the reply. Now, you may leave, he continued. Now, for you too, Yamato-kun, Kakashi-kun, what do you think of his skills? They are one of the best I've ever seen. His efficiency in the battlefield is unmatched, Yamato replied. There is only one drawback to that, Hokage-sama, Kakashi continued, in which his black-haired counterpart nodded. He has become, in a way, insane. Every time I see him, his smile never faltered and both his ruthlessness and efficiency is more than inhuman. It's like he's a machine now. I see. Very well then. Both of you are dismissed, the Hokage said somberly. Arashi would be very irritated if he found out. Naruto went back to his apartment room in the Root Anbu complex and slowly set down his cloak and mask on the table, his newfound weapon on the wall. He walked to the bathroom and inspected his own reflection on the mirror. His two front teeth that were missing for a full minute those 3 years before on the day he obtained his powers had grown back, he realized. His 3 whisker marks that were on his cheeks had deepened, making him look more feral than before. The fact that his canines had grown sharper didn't help much either. Then, he took a bath with freezing cold water and dried off by the time he was done. The boy walked to his table by his bed and saw a letter of summons from Danzo. Carelessly, he ripped it open and read the letter. It said that he was to report to Danzo about his mission. Wordlessly, the boy crumpled the paper and threw it upwards, then used his wind blades to shred it. Tired and spent, he went to his bed to get some well-deserved rest. 4x. The next day. Report, Danzo said. Hi. The new cannon we were ordered to pursue and terminate turned out to be a minimal threat. He brought several items that may need to be thoroughly examined, Naruto said as he knelt down. Elaborate. What items? What value might it hold? A box of scrolls which is now at Hokage-sama's hand and this, the boy replied as he pulled out the staff. It was a finely crafted weapon, made from metal and bore no engravings or marks whatsoever. Danzo examined the weapon and after a while filed it as unimportant and told Naruto to keep it as his own weapon, to which the blonde was grateful. The box of scrolls that was in the Hokage's hands might need some scrutiny, but if it was trusted to a weak soldier, surely it wasn't that important. Then the one-armed man led Naruto to the training area and told him to stand exactly 2 meters away from a wooden log. Danzo then told the Jinchuriki to cleave it. Without a second wasted, he let a wind blade fly and the log was cut in 2. A clean, flawless cut that couldn't be achieved with a mere katana. After nodding his approval, Danzo led Naruto to a training log and told him to destroy it. Naruto focused his chakra on the object as it blew and slowly rise from the ground and reached 3 feet above the ground. The Jinchuriki then clutched his fist and the log was crushed into splinters. The task was taxing for the young blonde and he had already showed signs of exhaustion by the time he did it the second time. The militaristic man beside him gave Naruto an envelope after his breath stabilized. Inside this is the specification of your next mission, he said. Without a word, Naruto took the envelope politely and opened it. As he read, Danzo told him, the mission will commence in 4 days. Meanwhile, use the available time to rest and recuperate. When Naruto went out the complex, it was already midday to noon. Sighing in irritation, the blonde took a hasty pace to a weapon shop to restock his soldier pills, shuriken, kunai, and exploding tags. The shop was a special shop that provided weaponry for every shinobi of every rank and stature. The store wasn't decorated with anything other than weapons. Shuriken and kunai adorned the left side of the wall, while swords and fuma shuriken adorned the right. On the front, behind the clerk's desk was a glass display where every kind of weapon imaginable was hung. In a seemingly practiced routine, the 8-year-old walked straight to the clerk's desk without bothering to look at the other items and called, I need 50 shurikens, 40 kunais, a pack of exploding tags, and a full bottle of soldier pills. The clerk, much to his surprise, was a 9-year-old brunette with her hair tied in 2 buns on her head. She turned to meet the buyer only to see a smiling 8-year-old boy who was only 120 centimeters tall. I'm sorry, but we only sell our gear to full-fledged shinobi, not to children, she said, not taking the Anbu member seriously. I am aware of that, miss. How much will that order cost me? Naruto said, not caring about her comment. Now look here, she said before her father came in from the side door which read, staff only. Tenten, that's not polite to say to a customer, the man said. He was a moderately sized man wearing a dark brown shirt under his thick blacksmith apron with dark brown hair and a proud look on his face. The man had strong arms, which its power he displayed by lifting a heavy box filled with training weights easily on one arm. But father, this kid wanted to buy shuriken and kunai, tell him it's dangerous to play around with them. Ah, don't worry about this one. Just get to the back and check on your mother, okay? The girl sighed dejectedly but still did what her father told her to. Once she was out of earshot, the blacksmith turned to his blonde customer. So, Uzumaki-san, what can I do for you? Like I said to your daughter, Kuzushi-san. 50 shuriken, 40 kunai, a pack of exploding tags, and a full bottle of soldier pills. He said as he noted down the necessary items. Anything else? I need to have this weapon appraised, Naruto told him as he took out the black staff. Kuzushi Tenzen took the staff and examined it thoroughly. After discerning its material, he whistled and turned to the Anbu member. This is one good piece you got. Amahagan is rare and this one is made entirely from it. Amahagan? Naruto asked in confusion. Yes, the best material to make weapons or armors. They are extremely durable, flexible, and light. Moreover, you can put a defense mechanism on it or imbue it with elemental chakra and they're not that hard to customize, the smith master said. Can you do them in 3 days? Naruto asked. Yes, but they will cost you more, Kuzushi replied. No matter. Have it done when I return then. 4x. Naruto's 4 days vacation, if you can call it that, was in its 3rd day and he walked to the Kuzushi family weapon shop to retrieve his customized staff. He opened the door to the store and saw the same girl as before. Ah, it's you again. Sorry I was impolite before, she said as she bowed apologetically. It's nothing, miss. Where can I find your father? Oh, right this way. Tenten led the blonde through the staff door after she closed the store for the day. She told him to go to the basement where her father was putting some finishing touches on the staff. He did as he was told and saw the 6-feet weapon engraved with hundreds of kanji that circled it. The smooth shaft turned into a bamboo-like structure as it looked like it had 6 segments. Both segments on each end were slightly thicker than the rest, almost invisible to the untrained eye. On the segments, ends were rings and on each tip of the weapon, small, almost flat protrusions made by 3 smaller rings were placed. Tenzen was chanting a spell as the crimson kanji burned and after waiting for a full minute, the ritual was finished with a blinding flash of light. Then, seeing that his customer was there, he told the boy to try it. The perpetually smiling boy took it and tried several swings and stabs, then found that it was perfect. In an act of curiosity, he grasped each end and pulled. To his surprise, the staff split into a pair of kali sticks. Just so you know, I prefer to call them dog-beating sticks. It's a common weapon in Hong Kong's wuxia films. Satisfied with the result, Naruto took out his wallet and gave its contents to Tenzen, who took it with appreciation. One last thing, he said, show me your gloves. Obediently, Naruto did so and in a swift movement, Tenzen wrote kanjis written in a centrifugal spiral and when he was done, he promptly slapped both of them and sent chakra to the spiral. There, now you can store that in your gloves, Tenzen said as he crossed his arms. Wordlessly, the Jinchuriki gave several extra ryu as his token of appreciation and left the place to pack for his mission. Hey, that guy is never one for words, the brown-haired man said. Father, I've been meaning to ask this, who is he? His daughter asked. That guy, daughter, is a living weapon, the blacksmith said as he hung his head down and shook it. It's a pity that a boy's gotta be one, but at least he gives people like us a good living. Tenten looked at her smiling father's face and asked again, if he's a living weapon, can he be wielded? Yup, but you have to be real strong if you want to. So, if I want to wield him, I have to be strong enough. In a sense, yeah. Alright, I'll be strong enough to wield this living weapon. Hey, kids these days. 4x, your mission is to deliver this message to an associate of mine. He is currently in Rice Country and also brought several bodyguards. The letter read, confirm the letter's delivery. When you're done reading this, burn it. The blonde did so and looked at photo of the person he was supposed to deliver the letter to. He was a lean man with purple eyeliner that made him look feminine. He had long black hair and an aura of malice around him. Mission commencing in T-5, 4, 3, 2, 1, begin. The blonde mentally counted as he jumped from the tall gate of Konohagakure no Sato to the black night that greeted him with moonlight, and he disappeared in a resounding whoosh. 4x. Rice Country border. Naruto sniffed the air and mentally counted the number of his enemies as he ran on the road. 4, no, 5, 4 males, 1 female. But it's weird, it's as if 2 smells are combined into one. Safe to say, there are 6. Threat estimation. Medium high. Suddenly, the blonde stopped to a halt and brought forth his twin sticks and put up a defensive stance after he combined them into a long pole. Please show yourselves. I tire of this cat and mouse game, the Jinchuriki said with a smile plastered on his face, though no one would be able to see it because of the porcelain mask hiding his face. Without warning, a light blue-haired boy rushed to him, throwing a fist. The blonde dodged sideways and slammed his staff to the boy's sternum, sending him to the air where he recovered and threw 5 kunais to the Anbu member. Naruto blocked each projectile and brought his staff down, attempting to break the blue-haired boy's collarbone, but the attack missed as he dodged to the left. From its position, only several inches above the ground, the weapon changed its direction and met the assailant's knee, breaking it and rendering him disabled for a while. But one thing for sure, he lost this fight. Talk, and I'll let you live, Naruto said calmly to the blue-haired boy as he approached and pressed the tip of his staff to his prey's neck. Hey, how about, die? He yelled. Immediately, dozens of arrows soared through the air and would have caught the Jinchuriki too if he hadn't used a Kawarimi no Jutsu with a cage bunshin he had so cautiously prepared. The blue-haired boy's comrade showed up. They were a 6-armed boy with black hair and a smug look, a red-haired girl who wore a cap, and a big boy with orange mohawk. Damn, you two-headed prick. You couldn't even take out a smiling psycho with a dildo for a weapon. The girl said, ignoring the big boy's comment about girls shouldn't be rude. Yeah, I'd like to see you try, Tayuya, he said. And indeed, he did have 2 heads, a fact that Konoha's living weapon didn't notice until now. Oh joy, 3 more, Naruto said, guess I'll have more to play with then. The blonde broke the long staff into 2 shorter ones and twirled them around, flexing his wrists, and cracked his neck as he sized up his opponents. 3 arrows flew to his direction and Naruto blocked it with his stick and dashed forward to disable the 6-armed boy. Before he was even halfway there, a boulder the size of a table flew to his head and the Jinchuriki split it in 2 with a wind blade without breaking his stride. The girl of the group, Tayuya, summoned 2 more ogres and they attacked Naruto relentlessly. He was calm until one of them caught him off guard and struck his abdomen. Naruto recovered midair and sent 5 wind blades to destroy the summoned fiends. Just as he brought one of his sticks down to the 6-armed Kidomaru's head, a bladed staff came and intercepted his blow. Then, with his still smiling face, he turned to the newcomer. Not bad, let's see how you fight one-on-one. Acknowledging the challenge, he told the rest of the group to stand down and whipped up his bone-made weapon. The 2 stick users sat down on their own stances, Kimamaro's solid form and Naruto's relaxed form. Then, as a thunder flashed before them, they charged. Kimamaro swiped his stick down, only to be blocked by Naruto's. Next, he stabbed his other staff and the blonde parried, then followed with a roundhouse kick to the head. The pale boy ducked under the kick and delivered a bone-spiked gauntleted fist to Naruto's stomach. The punch was blocked by the Jinchuriki's standard-issued Anbu armor, which was busted by then. Naruto jumped back 2 feet away and launched his Fukin, wind sword, to Kimamaro, who shot several finger bullets. Needless to say, the bullets were cut in 2 and the attack continued to make a large wound on Kimamaro's chest. Seeing the clear defeat of their comrade, the Sound Force sent attacks of their own. Kidomaru's continuous arrow barrage, Jirobu's rain of boulders and Tayuya's sound wave. All the attacks, however, was in vain as the boy formed a protective barrier of red aura that rendered each attack useless. Now, the fight begins, the smiling boy said with a deeper voice to the recovering Kimimaro, please survive this, because if you don't I will be very pissed. Naruto charged and swung his short staves to the boy's short spear and broke them. Before the pale boy could make any recovery, a knife kick met his sternum and sent him propelled back. Struggling to get back up, he used another bone spear he made from his arm bone as a crutch and stood up wobbly. He looked to the side and saw that all of his colleagues were frozen in fear. The six-armed boy fought his fear and formed an arrow, placed it on his bow, pulled the string, and let it fly. The arrow sailed in the air for some time and dissolved 2 inches from the intended target. Not bad, but still I'm pissed, Naruto said, ignoring the last attack with a smile that made his now crimson eyes squinty. His body exuded such an evil aura that they couldn't move, no matter how hard they try. Do note that they are only about 9 at the time and they'll receive their cursed seal soon enough. Suddenly, a tail of chakra formed on his tailbone and it rushed to the pale boy's chest, where his lungs were supposed to be. As the tail made contact with the lean white-haired boy, it covered him in red chakra and he began coughing up blood. The blonde laughed all the while, a laughter that could freeze one's blood and gave them nightmares for life. His hilarity was cut short as a man's voice called to the fighters on the road, "Cease this foolishness. Are you the one whom I must deliver this letter to?" Naruto asked to the new arrival after stopping his chakra attack and made the chakra armor dissipate, ignoring the man's perfect similarity to man in the picture. I am Orochimaru. I presume you are the one Danzo sent as a messenger. The black-haired man inquired. Yes. Are they your underlings? The Anbu asked. Yes. I apologize for their rudeness. They were supposed to keep intruders out and with that Konoha hit I ate, they deemed you as a threat, he reasoned. I see. I too apologize for my aggression, Naruto said, turning to the 5 who were still frozen in fear. Orochimaru-sama, may I try to heal them? Please, do so. Without further orders, he walked to the coughing boy on the ground and put his palm on the older boy's chest where a burn mark emerged and his still bleeding wound. In less than a second, he began to stabilize and the burn mark vanished, but he turned to unconsciousness. Then came the blue-haired guy he fought earlier's turn. He cracked the broken knee back on place, sandwiched them between styptics and bandaged them before using a healing jutsu on it. The pain induced from resetting the knee alone broke him out of his reverie. The big boy and the 6-armed one were panting in exhaustion due to chakra exhaustion and the massive killing intent they felt, so Naruto plopped a soldier pill to their mouths and slapped them. They recovered immediately and looked at the boy in fear, which he smiled in response, though they couldn't see it because of his mask. At last, came the girl's turn. She suffered from chakra exhaustion too after using the genjutsu in a prolonged period and summoning the ogres. Doing the drill, he threw a soldier pill to her mouth and contemplated what to do next because hitting a girl who wasn't a threat, whether potential or real, was against his conscience. So, he knelt down in front of her, took off his porcelain mask, showing his lean, whiskered face, and without warning kissed her on the lips for 3 full seconds before she yelled, "Pervert!" out loud, tried to slap him and got another kiss instead. 4x. The 7 people entered a cave about half an hour walk from their previous position. The cave was carved and shaped into a huge complex that only had one problem, dripping water from the stalactites. As they walked, Tayuya kept cursing the smiling blonde while maintaining a blush on her face. Jirobu, the big child, continuously reprimanded her about her use of words. Kidomaru, the 6-armed one, continued snickering just like his blue-haired, 2-headed friend, Sakin, whom Naruto supported as a form of an apology. The white-haired Kimimaro was carried on a stretcher to see one of Orochimaru's subordinate, Kabuto. At last, they reached Orochimaru's office, a chamber with obsidian double doors with white borders. They had several carvings that shaped a snake fighting a dragon on a mountain peak. Both creatures' eyes were from ruby and garnet, their body in the background however was made of pure obsidian. You can get in on your own, right? Kidomaru asked. Naruto nodded and asked Sakin if he could walk on his own, which he answered with a yes, and left with his comrades to where they entered. The blonde opened the doors and saw the serpent Sanin there reading the letter. His face was crunched up in concentration and was sitting without ease. After the door slammed shut, the serpentine man turned to see that the messenger was there, standing stiff before he knelt down and waited for Orochimaru's response. Ah, sorry I didn't notice you there. I suppose you wanted to hear my response for Danzu's letter? He asked. Hi, Orochimaru-sama. My response would be yes to every condition he mentioned. This letter holds my official response for him, he told the Anbu member. On behalf of Danzo-sama, I thank you deeply, Orochimaru-sama, he said. Not at all. It is nothing, the serpentine man said. Naruto exited the chamber and set his mask back, while inside Orochimaru sat on his chair and placed his palm to his forehead. Unbeknownst to each other, the two grinning people had the same thought on their minds: the old fool doesn't know he's being used in this agreement. The blonde boy went past the entire compound in 10 minutes, and by the time he reached the exit, Orochimaru had given the sound for, excluding Kimimaro, a cursed seal. After the mission to Orochimaru, Naruto reported the results and the response to Danzo, who read the letter thoughtfully and told the Jinchuriki to get some vacation until further notice. Wordlessly, the blonde got up from his kneeling position and went out the door to a ramen shop, Ichiraku Ramen. The stand that was near the Yamanaka family's flower shop was a great place for gathering information and dining. It just so happened that many shinobis ate there, and the chef and his daughter were bound to hear something: rumors, news, even something the council tried to cover up. One example of such was the rumors of the Uchiha clan massacre. Some said Itachi was controlled by a greater force, others said that it wasn't Itachi, but someone posing as him, while the not too sympathetic others said that Itachi had planned this all along. Give me the usual, Tsuki-san, Naruto told the chef after he took a seat near the counter. Sure, Naruto-kun, the ramen chef answered. While waiting for his ramen to cook, he held out his index finger horizontally as a sparrow flew down and landed on it. He stroked the bird affectionately with the other index finger before Ichiraku-san called him and the bird flew off. Here you are, Naruto-kun. Muttering a silent, thank you, the veteran ninja ate in silence as his other 10 bowls were being cooked. Just as he almost finished his 11th bowl, the ramen chef's daughter, Ayame, showed up and regarded him with a friendly smile as she secretly slipped a slip of paper to Naruto. He nodded his thanks and began a chit-chat with them and left exactly 1 hour after he left, 1 p.m. 4x. Once inside his humble abode, he received a letter on his night table: Bingo book updated. All active shinobi ranked Chunin and above are to report to the Hokage immediately. Naruto wondered, what makes a bingo book update so important that everyone must report to the Hokage? Though the ninja world is a very dynamic place, there wouldn't be too many changes in the bingo book. Usually 5 more are added and 3 would be crossed out. Every nuke nin had their own businesses and rarely band together. Maybe there's another edition from Konoha. The old man's sensitive about this, Naruto thought. Trying to look acceptable in front of the Hokage, he took off his torn cloak and wore a fresh one before walking out in a leisurely manner in the streets of Konoha while putting on his mask. 4x. In the Hokage Tower. I thank all of you who are gathered here under such short notice, Sarutobi began. Recently, due to several incidents, the number of Nukenin from the 5 elemental countries have increased substantially. One of the additions is Konoha's Uchiha Itachi. This caused several gasps from shinobis who weren't in Konoha when the Uchiha massacre occurred, while those who already knew kept their mouths shut and looked very disheartened about the tragedy. It is known that he has joined a group of S-class Nukenin known as Akatsuki, he continued. At the mention of S-class Nukenin, Naruto only had one thought on his mind, a worthy challenge. His smile was hidden by his mask, but it didn't go unnoticed by several people who knew his personality, namely the Sandaime Hokage, Yamato, Hatake Kakashi, and several others from Anbu. The announcement was finished in 10 minutes and the old man told everyone to get their new copies of the bingo book on the mission desk. As every ninjas filed out of the room, Naruto was stopped by the Hokage who asked him, "Naruto-kun, where does your loyalty lie?" Without turning to face the old man, he answered, "My loyalty lies with Konoha. I shall make sure the village prospers and its continuation guaranteed, with every means necessary." "One more thing before you go," Sarutobi said, "what is Danzo planning to do by associating himself to my former student, Orochimaru?" Surprised at the question, Naruto turned to look at the old man who continued, "Don't forget that I am the Hokage. I have my ways to find out about the things that are going on in this village." "I have no idea," the blonde admitted. "I do believe it has something to do with his long-term goal, making Konoha the strongest village in the world." "The strongest, And how does he plan to do this long-term goal?" the Hokage asked again. "By any means necessary, even if it includes the death of several people in this village," Naruto answered. "Now then, Hokage-sama, by your leave." Then, the living weapon left the building. It was several moments after the door closed that the Hokage realized a piece of paper FYING inside the room. Curious, he picked it up and much to his amusement, words flared on it and he read, "By the time Danzo-sama sees the village is weak, he will dispose of the current leader and put himself in charge. Watch yourself, Hokage-sama." 4x. 2 months later, another mission was given to Naruto. This time, it's assassination again. Briefly he wondered who will accompany him in this mission, since it wasn't a nay-only business where he had to go solo, but it was a joint mission of Danzo Orochimaru faction. He approached the rendezvous point, a small village on the way to Kirigakure, and saw an unexpected face, the scowling red head with colorful language named Tayuya. "You're late," she cursed. Yet, to her irritation, the blonde didn't respond or retaliate, he just took off his mask and showed his smiling face. Oh, how she wanted to wipe that smile off his face. "Let's just go and get this shit done with." They ran to the village's exit, heading towards their destination, a bandit camp situated in the shady parts of Kirigakure no Sato. "Do you understand the situation?" Tayuya asked. "Yes, a group of bandits has appeared here. Destroy them because they are a threat, spare no one." "Correct," Naruto asked. "Yeah, and don't this up. Got it?" the redhead said. The blonde didn't say anything but nodded. The two waited till midnight and suppressed their chakra to make sure they wouldn't be noticed, and then launched their attacks from the same spot. Mentally, Naruto counted his enemies. Approximately there are 50 genin level, 10 chunin level, and at most 3 junin level. They must be the leaders. The duo charged forward, beginning their attacks with assassination to make the kills as smooth as possible. Naruto sliced the throat of a sentry and Tayuya used her flute as a blowgun to kill another, its dart lacquered with the most potent poison known in Otogakure. Then, they dragged the bodies behind a tent and went their separate ways. 4x. With Naruto, the blonde killer wall-hugged a tent and looked out, finding a group of 4 bandits talking and playing cards. Even though he had suppressed his chakra signatures, using the Fukin would be dangerous for him because that jutsu used quite a large amount of chakra and would turn him into a flashing beacon in the dark for the 3 Junin level bandit. Deciding to minimalize visibility, he refrained himself to using his non-chakra using attacks. Besides, it was more challenging that way. Naruto took out a kunai and threw it. The blade embedded itself in one of the bandits' head. As the others made an audible gasp of surprise, he dashed towards them. When he approached one bandit, he kneed the old man in the stomach. The attack effectively pushed his diaphragm and also pushed his ribcage upwards. As a result, his ribs broke and pierced his internal organs. The Jinchuriki broke the man's neck and kicked another bandit on the chin before crushing the bandit's windpipe. As the last of the group was about to run towards the signal bell, Naruto threw a kunai and it pierced his forehead. Turning to the last of the alive bandits, he broke the man's spine in a very uncomfortable manner by getting behind him, almost tripping him to his back, and kneed him hard on the spine. His hand hit the bandit's neck, resulting the man's body to shape like an arc, a very sharp one at that. Almost like an upside-down V. 4x. With Tayuya, the west side of the camp she was in was more scarcely guarded than the east, where Naruto was. She looked around and saw around 3 patrols. Each of them was separated by at least 30 feet. Thinking of the best course of action, she put another dart into her flute and shot it to the one closest to her. The dart struck the intended target and the man just fell down lifelessly as the very potent and lethal poison worked its way inside his system. Hearing the dull thud, his partners approached him and nudged the man with their spear's blunt end. As they prodded for several seconds, she reloaded and shot 2 more. She tried locating the command tent and after she saw the largest one, the redhead immediately decided that the tent was what she was looking for. 4x. Tayuya ripped a small hole on the side of the tent and peered inside. What she saw brought a small smile to her ruby lips. The tent was packed with the remaining bandits. Now, the mission would be finished early if she just blew the place up. Something she would do if her crazy partner didn't just charge in after putting his mask inside his gear bag, took out his weapons, smiled, and started attacking. Normally, the foul-mouthed girl would really love to blow this person up. After all, he did piss her off, really pissed her off. If only her boss didn't say anything about this matter. 4x. Flashback. Tayuya, in this mission your partner will be from another village. And whatever you do, do not inflict damage on him or infuriate him, Orochimaru ordered. Hi, Orochimaru-sama. The redhead bowed and exited the dark chamber to her own room to get ready. 4x. Enjoying the sight, a voice beside her asked. Startled, she spun turned to the owner of the voice and met Naruto. Obviously, the blonde used a bunshin to wreak havoc inside the tent as everyone inside were screaming and shouting. What the fuck? Don't scare me, you piece of shit. And what the hell is your bunshin doing? Can't you just blow this whole joint up? Tayuya asked in a high whisper. Because that's not our real target. I will get back there to play later. Now, we have a bigger fish to fry, the blonde said. Confused, the girl followed the Anbu after confirming that it was him, not some high-level bandit in a henge or a genjutsu. He ran towards a small tent that looked just like any other tents near the cloth wall used as the base's limits. Okay, we're here, now what? The foul-mouthed girl asked. Lean closer and tell me what you hear, Naruto said as he took off his mask. His bunshin earlier was the one who lost his mask, not the original. Our target will be the small villages supplying Konohagakure with metal ores and stones. The other target will be this spot here. Apparently one particular Orochimaru had built a base of operations there. It's a cave, so if we just throw all our Horoku, hand-thrown old-style bomb, it's bound to be blast to shit in no time. Lately, she said, copying the leader's words and almost failing to stifle a roar of outrage. Okay, that's enough. Let's get in then. Once inside, the bandits' leaders were surprisingly pretty decent-looking people, with tidy shirt and jacket, newly pressed pants and one with a crossed Kumo Hitai-8. The other men in the room, obviously his underlings, had the Hitai-8 of Iwagakure and Kusagakure. Jinbo Okuda of Kumogakure, Naruto turned to the black-haired man in white, Ashiki Ken of Iwagakure, the brown-haired man in black, and Tojo Rumaru of Kusagakure, the green-haired man wearing blue. You all are hereby sentenced to death under the charge of being a threat to Konohagakure. The 3 turned to the newcomers, a blond boy with whiskered face, blue eyes and wearing Anbu cloak and a pair of sharp-clawed metal gloves, and a red-haired girl wearing a tan shirt with the yin-yang symbol on the cloth in front of her, a purple rope sash, black shorts that just reached past her knees, and a blue cap. These children, in their eyes, couldn't be older than 11, yet they were threatening the veteran Junins. This had got to be a joke. The three chuckled lightly and finally burst out laughing. Said action triggered Tayuya's anger and she took out her flute before finally slamming the steel object to Rumaru's jaw. The attack had the desired effect. The green-haired man held his jaw as it broke under the crushing force. He lay sprawled on the ground while screaming because of the terrible pain he was feeling. Seeing their colleague in danger, they took out their weapons, Okuda's claws and Ken's greatsword. As one they charged at the red-haired girl. Tayuya turned towards her targets and played her flute. Instantly the scenery around them changed into a terrifying bone yard and they were restrained with thousands of spine shards. In the real world, the two Junin's scream filled the air. They were put in such great pain from the genjutsu and couldn't really break free because they really were bound with something, a chain, to be precise, that her partner used. Seeing their inability to retaliate, she changed her tunes and summoned forth two ogres. The white one brought a giant wooden club, while the red one brandished a spiked metal club. The summoned creatures attacked and managed to wound the two men. It was a pity that because maintaining a genjutsu and summoning creatures like what Tayuya was doing was very taxing and soon she lost control and collapsed. The ogres disappeared in a puff of smoke and her genjutsu dissipated. Once the smoke cleared, there stood the three bandit leaders. Okuda sported several large bruises, Ken had many small ones, and Rumaru had repaired his jaw with a healing jutsu he had. Truly, the three were worthy to be Junins. They stood there as rigid as a rock, their hands continuously moved over their injuries as they healed very quickly, obviously using healing jutsu. Rumaru took out his saber and looked at the fallen Tayuya with great hatred. "I'm gonna kill this bitch for breaking my jaw," he said, ignoring the quickly approaching Naruto who had taken out his 6-foot bow staff. With a heave, he brought his sword down to behead the girl. But before the sword could travel halfway, it was blocked with the blonde Anbu's metal weapon. Naruto then brought the other end to the Kusanin, but he ducked under the weapon and did a leg sweep and almost tripped the Jinchuriki. Naruto jumped up, flipped mid-air, and introduced his heel to the green-haired man's forehead. The attack would hit if Rumaru hadn't leapt back to join his colleagues. The force of the axe kick was enough to break through rocks and would have crushed Rumaru's head if he hadn't dodged. In an instant, the blonde boy scooped his red-haired partner in his arms, carrying her bridal style and laid her down gently on the ground. My, so impolite," Naruto said as if he was talking to a child, trying to attack a defenseless lady. "That's not very gentlemanlike, is it? Or maybe you did it because you have nothing underneath." Simultaneously, the three Junin rank X shinobi took out their projectiles and threw it at the boy, while Naruto shot out the exact same amount of fukin the size of a shuriken to destroy each and every single one of the projectiles. The three bandits rushed to the boy and swung their weapons at him. He blocked Rumaru's straight sword and Ken's giant sword. While Okuda jumped on his comrade's back and leapt at the weapon-locked Naruto. Naruto used his chakra to make the weapons stick to each other and he pulled himself up to meet with the ex-Kumogakur Nin. He then flipped, lashed out his foot, and kicked Okuda on the face before releasing his chakra and swiped the other two on the shoulder blades. This gave the desired effect of them walking wobbly forward and clutched their shoulder blades in face. Angered at being toyed with this boy, they created dozens of bunchins from their villages and threw their shuriken, kunai, and senbon needles as several bunchins also threw their weapons. Seeing no way out, the blonde boy tried a trick he had been thinking of for the last few weeks. He created several small tornadoes that shot his wind blades like a gun turret would shoot bullets. Smoke filled the area and blood covered the ground as all three Junins were dismembered and mutilated. As the smoke and occasional blood fountain cleared, there lay the shredded bodies of three Junin-level bandits. Coincidentally, this was also the time when Tayuya woke up. She saw the crazed look of her partner as he savored the blood that covered his head and licked the occasional blood drop that reached his lips. Too shocked to say anything, she just looked as the blonde scavenged the bodies of the dead men and took their weapons without a second thought. When he got back to her, he asked her as he showed a marvelous weapon, "Do you want to take the claws or the others?" The girl looked at the blood-stained weapon and the gore that caked it, but took it anyway. Then she turned to the pile of bodies and played her flute. The tune had a soothing touch to it and 3 mist-like cluster of gases emerged. They were bone gray with 3 darker parts in the middle. As they rose to enter an orb that was attached to her bracelet, they made a voice that somehow sounded like contentment. During this whole tirade, Naruto watched her closely and especially the bracelet on her right wrist. It was made from platinum with about 12 small gray orbs attached in the middle, and as the mist-like gas moved towards one orb, the sphere glowed red. "What was it that you were doing?" Naruto asked. "Absorbing souls," she replied. "They are what made my summoned Oni demon. Sometimes, they also teach me something and talk to me." "Okay then. Back to the matter at hand. Would you like to help me kill the rest of the bandits or just watch?" "I'll help. I also want to test these claws." The two then walked to the biggest tent where about 40 people trying to kill thousands of crows that somehow got in there. "Your summon?" Tayuya asked. "No, my Bunshin," Naruto answered. He then clicked his fingers and they all turned to life-size Narutos before disappearing. Sensing that they had been tricked by the boy they thought they had killed earlier, one man ordered the others to look for the blonde and kill him on sight. The bandits dispersed outside, watched by the red-haired girl and the blonde Anbu atop a tree that was on the border of the encampment. They waited until things settled a bit and came down at the same time, hacking, slashing, stabbing, and basically killing the bandits. Needless to say, chaos ensued. None of the rogues expected their target to just jump down and start killing. After half an hour of utilizing jutsu and weapons, they finished their mission and assignment. 4x. The two scavenged the slaughter grounds for anything that's worth something: weapons, armors, jutsu scrolls, treasure, gold, anything. What they found worth approximately 900,000 ryo, most of them were from the treasure chest they found in one of the tents. By a fair agreement, they split the money 50-50 and would go on their separate ways if a messenger bird hadn't fluttered down and landed on Tayuya's shoulder. She took out the letter, read it, and frowned. Its contents were orders from Orochimaru. He ordered the red-haired girl to go to Konoha and get a certain Fuin Jutsu scroll that Danzo knew of. This meant 2 things to her. 1, she would have to spend more time with the blonde maniac, and 2, she would have to travel back to Otogakure from Konohagakure, which was very far. Sighing in annoyance, the foul-mouthed girl cursed and told the blonde boy to move his and lead the way to Konoha. 4x. On the way to Konohagakure no Sato, the merry duo walked through the thick forest that surrounded Konoha, one with irritation, the other with indifference. Naruto kept listening while Tayuya kept cursing, until a kunai was suddenly thrown to their direction. They both dodged out of the way as more than 10 men wearing the Otogakure Hitai showed up, and one of them walked forwards and said, "Tayuya-sama, there has been a change of orders for you." "And that would be?" she asked, not really liking where this conversation is going. The same man, a slender man with black face mask and camouflage patterned outfit, whipped out a scroll and read it out loud. "The agent who goes by the codename Konoha no Tsurugi was deemed a liability for our future plans. Kill him on sight." After hearing this, the red-haired girl tried to resist her urge to just blow up in their faces. She knew how strong this guy was. After all, he did beat Orochimaru's top 5 alone. Maybe that's the reason why Orochimaru-sama sent about 10 men out now, she thought. Naruto, on the other hand, had no problems and still looked indifferent after he took off his mask that he put back on several hours ago. "Yield, Konoha no Tsurugi, resistance is futile," the man continued. With a smile, Naruto raised both his hands and said, "Okay, I give up, not." Then, the blonde waved them down quickly and 2 blades of wind shot out, splitting 2 Odo shinobis in 2. Surprised, The others leapt away and spread away, not wanting to receive the same treatment as their comrades who just got split in two by an invisible weapon. Tayuya was conflicted in this. If she joined her comrades from Oto, she would be killed by the blonde weapon. If she joined the boy, Orochimaru would hunt her down and kill her. The battle raged on as the foul-mouthed girl continued to think about her choices. Naruto himself had his long staff out, deflecting kunais and shurikens. One bandaged nin wearing an odd-shaped gauntlet with many holes in it leapt and swiped his arm at Naruto, who then calmly crushed his skull with a simple swing of his metal staff. He turned around to see another ninja wearing the exact same gauntlet, and he heard a slight screeching created by the melody arm. The boy then barfed, and when he recovered, more enemy bunchins came down with their weapons drawn. Naruto pumped the Kyuubi's chakra into the air around them, and they easily formed long, thin strips of air blades which snaked and hissed. The K's no Himo, or wind rope, as he dubbed them, slashed through the enemy, and soon, the Bunshin army was gone. The improved wind blades ran and hissed like a viper would as they chased their targets, the 10 Chunin of Otogakure. 4x. Hey, that kid's pretty stupid. Fighting in a thick forest like this. He can't see us, but we can hear him, a Chunin thought. He continued to run through the forest until he felt a cold wind against his back. Feeling something wet, he turned and touched his back over his shoulder and looked at his fingers. What met his sight was the crimson of his own blood. Shaking in fear, he began to slash his kunai rapidly, hoping to somehow hit his attacker. This action, however, made his blood to continue dripping from the large wound that took off his entire back skin, and soon the Chunin collapsed from blood lost. 4x. The rest of the said Chunin's comrades weren't as lucky as he was, seeing that their internal organs and major arteries were cut by the wind blade. Everyone had the same look, wide, dead eyes and blood dripping from their mouths and wounds. All of them were put on the ground around his target and his superior. When he came to, which was about 15 minutes after he passed out, he saw that the blonde-haired kid and the red-haired girl talking to themselves. The Chunin didn't know how the hell he managed to stay alive. For all he knew, he should have been dead by all the blood lost. Then, he remembered that he had gritted his teeth so hard, the blood pill he put inside one of his back molars popped out and he swallowed it when he blacked out. Curious, he continued to observe what was transpiring in front of him. 4x. So, which side will you be on? Mine and stay alive for an indefinite period of time, or Orochimaru's and face immediate death? Naruto asked to the girl. She was transformed. Her lightly tanned skin was deep purple and the small horns she had grew longer and bigger, giving her the impression of some demon, and her clothes were torn in several places. The Anbu member, however, only lost his armor and a cut plus several bruises on his body shown by his torn sleeves. Do I look like I really have a choice? Tayuya asked back as she laughed a little. In the end, I'll die anyways, either by your hands or his. Tayuya-sama, don't forget which side you're on. The still alive Oto Chunin yelled. The blonde boy in turn sighed and shook his head while the red-haired girl slapped her forehead at her subordinate's foolishness and only watched as the boy in front of her threw a kunai straight to between the man's eyes. The blade connected and he crashed down the tree he was on. Now that the disturbance is gone, what will it be? Fine, I accept your offer. Naruto then approached the girl who was transforming back to her original form and stuck out a hand for her to shake. She didn't move her hand and said, if you can ensure my safety and get rid of this cursed seal. Deal. The two then shook their hands, sealing the deal. Both Naruto and Tayuya walked towards Konoha in relative silence as both of them were quite tired. Halfway through, after ensuring the blonde boy's unawareness should she attack him, Tayuya slammed her flute to his skull with a force strong enough to break a skull, and the boy fell down like a heap of meat to the grassy road below. Thanks for the offer, shithead. No thanks, the red-haired girl said as she waved a hand. Those guys are just dead weights anyway. Then, she thought back to the mission she was given. 4x. Flashback. Konoha's living weapon is a threat to our position should he stay alive. Your primary objective here is not only to decimate the group of bandits, but also ensuring the agent with the alias Konoha no Tsurugi's demise. You will be given 10 chunins to do this. Should you not succeed, do not fail. 4x. End of flashback. The stern voice of the serpent Sanin was still clear in her mind. The last sentence meant, if he doesn't die, impair him. Then the foul-mouthed girl approached the fallen boy and took out the pair of claws he had given her and raised it high to the air. So long, Konoha no Tsurugi, she said as she plunged the weapon to his face. The attack would have killed if a wind blade didn't interrupt the weapon's course and cut the sharp tip. Wobbly, Naruto stood up and glared at her in animalistic rage no one had ever seen before from the perpetually smiling boy who was healing at a frightening rate from his wounds. The blonde boy's aura went more demonic as blades of wind shot out at short intervals from all around him and more than a few struck the girl. Looks like this is it, she thought. Looking at the face of the now red-eyed juggernaut drained her hopes of surviving as he walked closer to her. He reeled his fist back to punch a haymaker to the brown-eyed girl and shot it out faster than any kunai would. But, mere inches from her face, the fist dropped and so did the boy as a talisman was placed on his nape. Tayuya looked at her savior, that was none other than one of her subordinates that she was sure had died. But, considering his present state, the man was as good as dead, seeing his missing arm and torn leg. Run, Tayuya-sama. Don't let our sacrifice be in vain, he croaked out. Not one to lose chances, the red-haired girl quickly ran away to report back to her superior, the serpent Sennin, Orochimaru, about the situation. She didn't turn back even after hearing the Chunin's body being crushed in a bestial roar. 4x. Orochimaru's office. Forgive me, Orochimaru-sama, the girl said, kowtowing to her superior as deep as she could. What's there to forgive? You didn't succeed, yet you didn't fail, just like what I told you, the effeminate man said. Now leave, go to the infirmary and patch yourself up. So, he's still alive, No matter. The pieces are being played as I wish it to anyway, the pale man thought. 4x. Konohagakure's ninja-only hospital. 3 days later. Naruto groaned loudly, holding his bandaged head and scanned around his room. The hospital ward was plain white in every single spot, as if boasting its cleanness. Everything was white, the sheets, the curtain, the walls, the ceiling, everything. Well, everything save for the other occupant of the room who was reading a book. Sigh, he greeted. Welcome back to the realm of the living, the dark-haired boy said back. So, how are you feeling? He asked as he stood up from his chair. I've been through worse, the blonde said. I see. You know, Danzo-sama was quite worried about you for a while. But, after seeing those weapons you brought back, he surmised that you completed the mission, the smiling boy said. By the way, what are you going to do now? Plotting, Naruto replied. For what? Naruto's smile grew wider and more devious as he said one word, revenge. 4x. The blonde's life after his discharge from the hospital went the same way as it was before for 4 years, doing missions, killing people, scavenging and modifying weapons, learning new ways to harness his wind and air manipulation and his ever-growing telekinetic abilities. Life's boring, he thought from his Spartan room. I wonder if today Danzo-sama's going to give me a more worthy challenge. In his boredom, the living weapon laid around on his bed, thinking about the many possible ways of modifying his weapons and the whereabouts of that red-haired bitch, Tayuya, who betrayed him those 4 years ago. He was so engrossed in his thoughts that he didn't realize a knocking from his door. In a leisurely pace, he walked to the wooden door and opened it, only to see a messenger from his boss, Danzo, with a letter on his hand. Naruto took the letter graciously from the messenger and told him to wait for a minute for the boy to give him a tip. The white-clad messenger told him it wasn't necessary, but the blue-eyed boy insisted and the man waited for a while. Just before the door shut, the blonde boy strafed to the right before he outstretched a hand to pull the messenger in and slammed the envoy to the wall, pinning him. Did anyone follow you? He asked. No, No one did, came the answer, albeit a terrified one at that. The living weapon gave a faint nod before digging his hands into his pants pocket and took out a weapon, shaped almost like Sarutobi Asama's trench knives. It was a cross between a brass knuckle and a curved knife. The weapon had 4 spikes, one on each knuckle, each was an inch long, and the metal grip was attached to a curved knife on top, near the wielder's thumb. The blade was so curved, it almost looked like a scythe. The weapons Naruto had a pair he called Kuga, Tiger's Fang. Without saying a word, he lodged the blade into the envoy's neck and pried it loose, spraying blood everywhere. After Naruto cleaned the blood on his fingers and weapon, he tore the envelope carefully, fearing he'd trigger a booby trap in it. Finding none, the blonde took out the letter and read it. Momochi Zabuza spotted in Nami no Kuni. Assist Team 7 and eliminate target. Go to mission assignment building and get detailed information regarding this matter and commence mission at this day, exactly 1 hour after information is given. The boy was intrigued. How come Danzo asked him to do this B-rank mission? Momochi Zabuza was a free nuke nin, coming and going as he pleased, rarely attacked people or robbed. Then, he remembered, Nami no Kuni was a transit point for every ship and carriage that connected Hai no Kuni and Mizu no Kuni. Wasting no time, the blonde strapped his gear and went to the mission assignment building. 4x. Upon his entry of the building, Naruto came across a couple of frantic-looking old men. Ignoring the sight, he looked towards the Hokage and stepped closer before he kneeled and asked, "Did you call for me, Hokage-sama?" "Ah, Tsurugi-san, indeed I do. I trust you know about Team 7's condition." The elderly man asked back. In professional terms, they always use Naruto's code name. "Yes sir. They are in a B-rank mission and encountered Kurigakure no Kijin, correct?" "Yes. Now, for the reason why you were chosen as reinforcement." "Sir, permission to speak freely," the blonde man cut him off. "Granted. Allow me to guess, it's because Uchiha Sasuke is in Team 7 and as of now is in danger. Am I wrong in any of this?" "No, as a matter of fact, you are correct," the old man nodded. "So then, my mission is to rescue Uchiha Sasuke and eliminate Momochi Zabuza and his accomplice if any." The blue-eyed lad asked. "Yes, it would help if you make sure all of Team 7 is safely back, but to the council, Uchiha is the priority." "Hi." With that said, the blonde boy stood up, turned on his heel and walked out the building, taking note of the last information Sarutobi-sama told him. In Team 7, there is already a casualty. From Hitaki Kakashi, as their Junin sensei's last report, he is seriously wounded and would die. 4x. Nami no Kuni, Tazuna's house, 2 days later at night. Naruto knocked the door of the sturdy, yet seemingly run-down residence of the super-famous bridge builder, Tazuna. When he got in, he was greeted by a beautiful woman of around 30 years of age. "Excuse me, but does the ninja from Konohagakure live here?" the boy asked politely, showing his Hitai-8 as an ID. "Yes, come in," the woman said. "May I ask your name so I can tell them that a guest is expecting them?" "Of course. Just tell Hitaki Kakashi that Tsurugi is here. He knows about me," the blue-eyed boy said. Wordlessly, the masked boy followed the woman who identified herself as Tsunami to one particular room in the 2nd floor. The black-haired woman knocked on the door twice and got in. After explaining to the inhabitants of the room that a person known as Tsurugi is there to see them, Tsunami went out again and told Naruto to go in, then she left to prepare dinner. Naruto looked at the condition of Team 7 and analyzed them. Hitaki Kakashi. Current status. Chakra depletion. Time required to recover. Give or take another 3 days. Uchiha Sasuke. Perfectly fine, other than fatigue and several bruises. Haruno Sakura. Quite shaken. No visible physical ailment. Kujchio Seiki. Cuts most everywhere, but will live through. Tsurugi-san, Kakashi greeted. "Nice surprise, I never thought Hokage-sama would send you here." "Kakashi-san," Naruto replied, bad surprise, not only did you lie to the Hokage and I at an extent, your first team looked battered. Well, I have no other way. If we didn't ask for reinforcement, no doubt one of them will die, the silver-haired man said calmly, gesturing to his team. The three genins were shooting the tall Junin dirty looks, which he ignored. Very well, but I will only help if you are near death. Now then, please excuse me, the blonde replied, exiting the room. Who was that guy, Kakashi-sensei? Sakura asked. That guy is someone you don't wanna mess with, the silver-haired Junin said. Is he just short or is he young? He looks too short for an Anbu, Sasuke asked, inquiring further information for this potential ally or potential foe. Oh, he's young. Around your age, I believe. What? Around our age and an Anbu? Seiki yelled. This outburst gained angry looks from everyone in the room, which he shot back with a confused, what? Kakashi sighed in annoyance and shook his head. Seiki, didn't I tell you back when we fought against Zabuza, there are people younger than you, but stronger than me. That guy, Tsurugi is one of the concrete proofs. Then, just how strong is he? Uchiha asked. If he doesn't hold back, not even the whole Konoha Anbu force would survive, the copy nin said ominously. 4x. Dinner. Tazuna's house. Sasuke was eating like a starved man, so did Seiki, who wolfed his food down like there was no tomorrow. In less than 30 seconds, they finished their plates and puked them out soon afterwards. Hey, if you can't keep it down, don't eat. You're wasting food, Sakura reprimanded. No, I need food to continue training, Sasuke said back. Yeah, me too, Seiki agreed. There, peaceful. Dinner was cut short by a short boy wearing a bucket hat and overalls of around 6 years of age who said tauntingly, why do you keep trying? You guys will be killed by Getu and his men anyway. Shut it, kid, we're not like you, the brown-haired Seiki said. That's right, you don't know what pain is, the black-haired boy said, if I were you, I would just give up. Kakashi decided to cut the argument short as he told them, well, you don't need to worry. After all, aside from me, you also have Konoha's living weapon on our side. Aside from me, then what the hell are we? Chopped liver. The pink-haired genin whispered to both her teammates who nodded in agreement with both boys showing different emotions, Sasuke with anger in his eyes and Seiki with annoyance. In irritation, the boy whom Tsunami later introduced as her son, Inari stood up from his chair, excused himself from the group, and went to the roof for some alone time after telling them how futile it was to fight against Getu. 4x. Roof of Tazuna's house. Naruto was standing on the tip of the roof with his blue eyes closed and let the night air hit his face in full force, as he had taken off his mask and hood. The blonde boy inclined his face upwards, looking at the moon that shone brightly in the sky. Hearing footsteps, the living weapon turned to the staircase that led to the roof. He saw Inari climbing it with his arms and almost lost his grip. The black-haired boy looked at the mysterious stranger who stood atop his house and asked, like any ordinary people, who are you? The blonde ignored the question and disappeared into the lack of the night, leaving only a swirl of wind and leaves in his wake. 4x. The next day, Kakashi flexed his hand and saw that they worked properly, not limited like before. Then, he tried walking without his crutches and succeeded as well. He left the house and told his team to follow him and Tazuna to the bridge with one thought in his mind, the time is near. 4x. Sasuke and Seiki had both successfully ran up the tree Kakashi told them to climb with their chakra. Sasuke first and 3 hours later, Seiki. Both of them didn't care about the time and returned to Tazuna's house where they rest and recuperate, preparing for the battle that would take place on the next day. In the morning, Naruto was up, doing sit-ups while hanging on a tree branch. The boy didn't go to the bridge yet because he knew Kakashi would signal him should they be in trouble. His keen sense of smell picked up many scents: flowers, grass, trees, and a person. Seeing no point in hiding his presence anymore, he continued his morning exercise. Hiding now will only rouse suspicion. Let's see what this person wants, the blonde thought. The person he saw was someone whom he didn't expect, a beautiful girl wearing a light blue kimono with an herb basket dangling on her arms. She looked harmless at a glance, but somehow, the blue-eyed boy could smell blood coming from her. 4x. Haku saw a masked and hooded person wearing a black hoodie hanging from a tree branch by his knees doing sit-ups and, trying to keep the act of a normal village girl, she asked the stranger politely, "What are you doing?" The masked person turned to her for a while and flipped down to the ground. Then, he walked closer and asked, "What does it matter?" Ignoring the rude comment, she just answered him, "Nothing, I'm just curious." There was a moment of silence between them as she knelt down and began picking herbs, then asked, "Why do you train?" "To become strong." Naruto ignored the question and looked the other way before he asked, "Does it matter?" "Strength, I mean." "Of course it does. I need to become strong to protect my precious person," the black-haired girl said. The blonde in turn asked back, "So that's the reason you strive to be strong?" "Yes, what's yours?" "Your reason to be strong?" "No reason," the Jinchuriki said. At that moment, Haku was confused. If there was no reason, should an action be done? The blue-eyed boy looked at the black-haired girl who momentarily paused and stared at him. Seeing the girl's confusion, Naruto said, "Not everything needs a reason. One of them is being strong." After his words were spoken, the living weapon turned his back on her and disappeared. 4x. Tazuna's house. The next day, Tsunami screamed from the kitchen as two men who was working under Geidu busted the wall of the kitchen she was in. One of them, wearing a beanie, said to her, "Are you Tazuna's daughter? 'Cause our boss told us to get you." This time, she screamed louder and alerted Inari, who was washing his hands in the toilet on the floor above. Tsunami was backed up against the kitchen counter, and at the same time, both Geidu's henchmen and Inari were closing in. The 6-year-old boy called to his mother and the two samurais turned to each other. "What? There's a kid here?" the unshirted one asked. As her motherly instinct kicked in, Tsunami yelled to her son, "Inari, don't come. Run away." The two henchmen turned to each other and discussed the matter of whether or not they should get another hostage, but the beanie-wearing one told the eye-patched one not to. After all, Geidu only told them to bring one. Then, the eye-patched samurai asked his partner, "So, I can kill the kid, right?" Hearing the question, Tsunami yelled, "Stop. You want a hostage, right? If you touch the boy, I'll bite my tongue and kill myself." The beanie-wearing samurai sneered and turned to Inari, "Hey, thank your mom, kid." His partner whined, "But I want to cut something." "You just cut a bunch of things. Now come on, let's bring her." From his hiding place, Inari silently cried. Not only had he failed his father, he also failed his mother. "Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm a weak kid, I can't protect you. And I don't want to die. I'm afraid." "Are you afraid, boy?" a voice asked behind him. "Because through fear comes hesitation, and through hesitation comes weakness." Fightfully, the black-haired boy turned to see the owner of the voice. He was a boy with blonde hair and a smiling face. He wore a black hoodie and dark blue pants with a pair of ninja sandals. "But even if you are weak, protect your objective with your life. The moment you lost it is the moment you fail and be nothing more than useless," the person said again. Then, the newcomer jumped through the air and kicked one samurai straight on the face, breaking his nose and several teeth. Naruto aka Tsurugi continued with a sharp roundhouse kick that the other samurai received full on the side of his head, messing his equilibrium and coordination. Tsunami also heard that cold, distant voice, but couldn't place her finger on whose voice it was. Then, she remembered. It was that night visitor who called himself Tsurugi. My, two people trying to restrain a lady. He spoke as he landed gracefully on the ground. Who in heaven's name is so weak, he needs a partner to restrain a civilian woman? "Don't with us, kid," the unshirted, eye-patched samurai said, wiping the blood on his face and stood up, his partner did the same. Who wants to? I'm Nada and most certainly, you two are not women, the blue-eyed boy said. Enraged, the two samurai lunged at him and tried to slash him. Calmly, the 12-year-old brought out Kuga and blocked the swords with the tiger fangs, curved blades like it was nothing. Weak, he said. Then, in a flash of movements, he kicked both of them in the solar plexus and sent them flying a meter away. The two henchmen tried to stand up, but ended kneeling in front of the living weapon. The blonde continued by shooting out two wind blades that struck their thighs and arms, severing them. Both men cried loudly while nursing their severed limbs. Naruto then walked towards them and lodged Kuga deep into their skulls, perfectly piercing the brain. Then, the boy pulled the pair of weapons out, and took their swords, then sealed them in a scroll. Naruto turned to the woman and child and said, "Where are Kakashi-san and his team? And your father?" They are at the bridge," Tsunami said. "I see, thank you," the living weapon said. He paused in his steps and turned to Inari, who was hiding behind a wall corner, before saying, "There is something the people of this country should do. If you are smart, you should know what I mean." The blonde then continued his steps to the bridge. 4x. Bridge construction site. Kakashi and his team of genin escorted Tazuna to the bridge. He brought all of them because for some reason, he believed that today, there would be something big happening. And true to his thoughts, the something big unraveled itself right before their eyes. The bridge workers were on the ground, some were injured and others were killed. One thing for sure, all of them were bleeding. Tazuna ran to one of them, sat the man up and asked, "What happened?" Monster. It's a monster," he said before he fell to unconsciousness. Monster. Could it be? Kakashi thought. Then, the silver-haired Junin noticed something different, a thick mist appeared out of nowhere. Cautiously, he stated to his team, "Get ready. The enemy's here." Sakura asked her sensei, "Kakashi-sensei, this is the Kurigakure no Jutsu, right?" "Long time no see, Kakashi," Zabuza's voice cut through the mist, "and you're still with those brats." He's shaking again. Poor kid. Then, 10 Mizu Bunshins of Zabuza appeared. They had completely surrounded Team 7 and Tazuna. "I'm shaking out of excitement," Sasuke said. Do it, Sasuke," Kakashi told his student. Then, the Uchiha survivors slashed all the clones, leaving none standing, and turned them into water again. He saw through the Mizu Bunshin. "It seems the brat has grown," Haku said. "It seems you have a rival in speed, Haku." Zabuza asked his student underling. "It does indeed. Looks like I was right. That masked guy is obviously Zabuza's comrade." Standing next to him and all, Konoha's copy Nin said. "That bastard should just stop hiding behind that mask and face us," the angsty Sasuke said. "I'll fight him. Tricking us with a stupid act like that, I hate sons of bitches like that." "Wow. Sasuke-kun is so cool," Sakura said in a fangirl-ish way. Meanwhile, their comrade, Seiki, was quietly sneaking away from the battlefield, thinking, "Damn, at first, I thought being a ninja means I can be surrounded by pretty girls all year round. If I'd known I'll be putting my life on the line, AARRGGH. I knew I should have just joined that business school Pops always told me about. I should just get away from here." Seeing all this, their sensei shook his head and thought, "When I pass a team, they're messed up." Although Sasuke's strong, he's too hell-bent in revenge, Sakura's too infatuated with him, and Seiki's a coward. Why did I accept when Hokage-sama said I should take a team of genin? Oh yeah, it's because if not, it's that psycho that's gonna teach them." Again, the copycat sighed loudly. This didn't go unnoticed by Naruto, who was approaching their location at a relaxed pace. About 50 meters from them, he stopped and put his mask and hooded robe on before he disappeared in a whirl of leaves, only to reappear right between Kakashi's and Zabuza's faction. Seeing the blonde's appearance, the silver-haired Junin asked, "Ah, Tsurugi-san, nice of you to join us." I'm here to complete my secondary mission. So, Kakashi-san, Zabuza-san will be my opponent, he replied. Sure. Sure. No hassle here. Then I'll leave you two to fight then, Kakashi said as he turned around, watching Sasuke's fight with Haku, ready to step in when things get awry for the onyx-haired boy. Sakura, Seiki, cover Tazuna. If he dies, he won't be the only one going to the afterlife. Huh, what do you mean, Kakashi-sensei? Sakura asked. Tsurugi-san hates people who are useless, the silver-haired Junin answered cryptically, then he left to watch Sasuke's fight, only serving as an observer all the while ignoring the questions his two students kept shouting. 4x. Battlefield, Naruto and Zabuza. You'll be crying like a baby once I'm done with you, Konoha no Tsurugi, Zabuza said as he unstrapped his Zanbeitu. Even if you are strong, you still lack experience and reflex. Naruto made no answer to that taunt, but prepared his own weapon. He smeared blood across his left forearm after he rolled the sleeve back. A giant sword the size of Kubikiri Haucho appeared on the blonde's left hand. It was a big, slightly curved sword with straight hilt that was wrapped tightly with red wires. The hand guard was 10 inches long, 1 inch wide and golden in color. A fan-shaped arch with inclinations as its spines was formed on the hand guard, passing the 8-inch wide blade, and ended on the other side. The blade of the weapon was dull gray, in contrast to Zabuza's black blade, and on it, many runes of kanji were written. I only know one person who wields that kind of sword, Ashiki Ken from Iowa. And that loving son of a bitch never lets go of his sword, the bandaged man spoke. So no doubt you've killed him, right? That is correct, Zabuza-san, the blonde man said. That fool never takes care of his sword even though it is very, very valuable. She as in the sword was crying when he wielded her. An uncomfortable silence passed through the duo, both were sizing up each other, trying to find the perfect moment to strike. Naruto began formulating a plan in his mind as the wind blew. After 2 seconds, they both charged towards each other. Naruto shot out 3 wind blades at Kurigakure no Kijin, aiming for his neck, pelvis, and sternum. All of them hit something and Naruto heard water splashing, no doubt it hit a Mizu Bunshin. Then, where is Zabuza? The living weapon stopped and thought about this, until he heard a voice from the heavy mist that he noticed didn't dissipate when his wind blew. 8 choices, it said. Liver, lungs, spine, clavicle vein, jugular vein, brain, kidneys, and heart. Which should I hit? Make your choice now, or I'll choose for you, Zabuza's voice spoke again. The blue-eyed boy smiled from behind his mask and said, heart. I've never needed it, anyway. Zabuza nodded his head and grinned. Then, he appeared, right in front of Naruto and slashed his heart as strong and as fast as he could with a diagonal downward slash. His blade, however, was stopped by the blonde's sword, which was almost 6 feet in total length, its hilt only took 1 foot from the whole length. Naruto in turn, shot a vertical wind blade from the sky downwards at Zabuza who dodged back and spun mid-air to twirl horizontally and stuck his sword out, making a spinning slash because he surmised Naruto would charge forwards. His thoughts, however, was incorrect because the blonde was already at his face when the bandaged Nukenin regained his footing. The blue-eyed Anbu held his weapon on his left hand in reverse grip and punched with his right hand. Zabuza calmly dodged it to the side and tried to slash the limb, but stepped back quickly like a fish reeled back by a fisherman when the boy swung his giant sword in one hand to the place where his head was. The bandaged man then leapt back several steps and began doing the hand seals for one of his favorite jutsu. When it was finished, he cried out, Suiryuden no Jutsu. A water dragon formed itself in front of Zabuza and rushed at Naruto whom, after seeing the jutsu, prepared one of his own, Fukin. Zan. Wind blade. Sever. A strong gust of wind the shape of a crescent moon appeared and cut the gigantic dragon vertically as it passed through the jutsu and aimed to the Kurigakure Nukenin. Zabuza dived to the side, knowing full well how strong that move was. Seeing the end result of the foliage 100 meters from behind him, he was damn grateful to any deities that listened to his prayer and eluded him from that crazy bastard's jutsu. Mentally, the tall man swore that he would become a monk if he survived this fight. But, before he could even rub his beating chest to ease the thumps, another wind blade appeared right before his eyes. Zabuza ducked through the attack and reared back when Naruto's knee almost came into contact with his face. Not bad, the blonde said. But really, do you think that will save you? The man known as Kurigakure no Kijin tried to retaliate to the insult, but he was cut off by a crazy cackle from the side, where the short man known as Gedo stood with his army of lackeys. Zabuza and Naruto stopped in mid-swing, looking at the business tycoon in front of them. The two retracted their sword arms and turned Gedo. The short man cackled again and looked at Zabuza and Haku, who also stopped her fight with Sasuke. So, you can't even handle two brats and an old man. He spoke. How disappointing. Gedo, what are you doing here? And what's with all these people? Zabuza asked. The plans changed. Hee. Well, actually, I was planning to do this from the beginning. Zabuza, I'll kill you here. What? That's right, I don't plan on giving you money. Hiring ninjas from villages is expensive, then they betray me, so I get nuke nins like you to do the dirty, tedious job. The ninjas fight and weaken each other, and then I finish them all with sheer numbers. It cost me nothing. Good plan, don't you think? The only problem in the plan was you, Zabuza. You're the Kurigakure no Kijin. Humph, you're nothing but a little baby demon. Hearing their bosses' encouragement, the army of underlings roared and charged. 4x. Naruto watched as the scene unfolded itself right before his eyes. This was a battle he had never dreamed of, a fight with 50+1 men. This was his dream come true. A battle worth fighting in, a battle worthy of his attention. Shivering in anticipation, he sealed back the giant blade and revealed two other weapons, a 6-foot bamboo-shaped gray metal staff with visibly thicker segments on the edges and a plain dark brown stick, about 2.5 feet long with a rounded tip. The blonde boy stuck the shorter weapon onto his belt and retracted the two wide segments of the long staff, making the main shaft's tip spread into numerous sharp, flat, thin blades. He grinned behind his mask and made 10 cage buncheons before setting into his stance, ready to finish them all off. 4x. Zabuza in turn looked at his blonde counterpart. He certainly seemed like he would enjoy the fight in front of him. Deciding not to back out from this fight to feel the thrill of a battle royale one more time, he too created Mizu buncheons and got ready to fight. 4x. Kakashi and his team, who were watching Sasuke's kicking courtesy of Haku, stopped for a moment when they heard a war cry from where Naruto and Zabuza stood. They all looked at the horde of people and they, i.e. Kakashi and Haku, decided to jump into the fray to help their comrade, superior. Haku dispelled her ice mirrors and Kakashi made several cage buncheons after telling Sakura and Seiki to take care of the incapacitated Sasuke. The two ran to where the major fight would take place, but suddenly the silver-haired Junin pulled the black-haired girl to a stop and dismissed the clones he made earlier. Why are you stopping me? She demanded. Because as of now, none of them can be helped, he said sagely. If you try to help them now, you will do nothing but add the body count. Why are you telling me this? Aren't I your enemy? She asked again. Not right now, because you're just another watcher of what will transpire here, just like us. 4x. Gichi-san, Inari called as he knocked on the door. Open up. Come with me to the bridge. This time, if we all go together, we can beat Gedo's men. I'm sorry, Inari, came the reply, we don't want to fight anymore. Even your father, the man called a hero, is no longer here. If we fight, we'll have to make sacrifices. And we don't want to lose anything precious anymore. Nobody wants to do something they'd regret. I don't want to do anything I'd regret either, the 6-year-old boy replied. That's why we have to fight. 4x. The foot soldiers charged to where the two, now 20, men stood, and as soon as the first one reached them, his head was cleaved clean by Zabuza. The big man roared and kicked another foot soldier, which his Mizu Bunshin finished with another slice to the head. He swung his giant blade around and struck their shins, cutting if not breaking them. He deflected a thrust from a spearman and lashed out with a jaw-breaking left hook, continued with a sharp knee to gut and ended with his head being clutched and the rest of him thrown to his comrades. The demon of the mist slashed at his other opponents with a heavy swing of Kubikiri Haucho and caught in the instant two people. 4x. A man should live a life with no regrets, Inari heard his father say. I love my mom, my grandpa, you and everyone else in this city. Now I know you can't protect anything by being a crybaby. That smiling guy the other day taught me that. 4x. You can't go to the bridge alone. Tsunami yelled. I went throughout the city and nobody wants to come. I have no choice, Inari said to his mother. But, you're still a child. She tried reasoning. I am still a kid, but I know how to fight, the 6-year-old answered. After all, I am my father's child. Wait, the black-haired woman called. 4x. Naruto was faring better than Zabuza. His modified staff blade easily slashed and tore through the enemy ranks. With just one swing, he had severed the jugular vein of a man and with another upward swing, sent a blade flying and into the skull of another person. His cage bunshins were faring well on their own, slashing and cutting away, but mostly holding off Zabuza's Mizu bunshins until finally, the living weapon thought that it wasn't fun anymore. He dispelled them and began swinging and turning his staff around, all the while shooting his wind blades, cutting up more than enough to diminish their numbers. As he stopped twirling his weapon, he spread his arms down, held the grayish staff out diagonally, and made a small wind rope to finish the job. When the wind subsided, 20 people dropped lifelessly to the ground like ragdolls. 4x. Despite what the spectators thought, the battle only lasted for 30 minutes and none of the two were severely injured, just a few scratches here and there. Kakashi-san, finish the job, the blonde commanded as he tried to regain his breath before he had enough rest and sealed his staff. Said man nodded and ran to the cowering Getu who was crawling out of the way. But, before Kakashi could get to him, a crossbow bolt flew and struck the ground right in front of the squat man. He instantly reeled back in fear and met face to face with Hatake Kakashi who had a kunai in his hand. Getu-san, this is both personal and business, but don't let it get to you, okay? The silver-haired man spoke calmly. Before the masked Junin could sit Getu's neck, the citizens of Nami no Kuni approached the business tycoon, hogtied him and proceeded to beat the shit out of the man before he was dragged to the town square, where he will be executed publicly to show Nami's independence. Both Naruto and Zabuza were exhausted, but they could still fight one more battle. Spectators from Nami, Kakashi's team, Tazuna, and Haku stood by watching what would happen. Both fighters stood 15 meters apart from each other with their hands on the hilts of their weapons and simultaneously ran at each other. Zabuza tried to sever Naruto's leg with a low swipe. The blonde jumped over the attack and twirled midair before he slashed the black-haired man's head with a saber hidden in the dark brown stick. The demon of the mist turned into water when the attack hit and reappeared behind Konoha's living weapon. He kicked Naruto and used his body as a platform to jump back several feet away, all the while doing hand seals for his strongest move, Daibakufu no Jutsu. The blonde's body lurched forwards as his opponent's feet kicked him hard and sent him flying. Using a well-timed spin, he landed on the ground gracefully and prepared his untested move. The 12-year-old concentrated thousands of small wind blades on his palm in a rotating manner, slowly at first but continued to grow faster by each passing moment until the wind took form of a orb. No, it's not Rasengan. The blue-eyed boy finished the jutsu at the same time as Zabuza and both of them released them at the same time. Daibakufu no Jutsu, the older man called out. Senpuden, the boy shouted. Whirlwind orb. The two spinning jutsu hit each other with the same force. Water dispersed into vapor as the tremendous kinetic energy was converted into heat. Soon, The whole battlefield was filled with the vapor and the two fighters disappeared from view. The spectators watched anxiously, waiting for the result of the fight. 5 seconds passed quickly and the steam dissipated, showing one scene they all would remember for a long time. Naruto's thin saber pierced Zabuza's his shoulder, while Zabuza's Kubikiri Haucho's flat side hit Naruto's head and cracked his mask a little. Both of them slumped down, too exhausted to do any more. Haku saw her master's condition and rushed to him, trying to confirm his condition. Kakashi, however, stood where he was, not doing anything other than telling Seiki to carry the unconscious Sasuke and Sakura to go with them to Tazuna's house. Kakashi-sensei, about Tsurugi-san, Sakura said. Don't worry about him, he's way tougher than that. You might want to step back though, the tall man said as he walked to his comrade. Oi, Tsurugi, are you still alive? The masked boy lay still for a while before he suddenly stood erect like a raised corpse, eliciting a loud shriek from Sakura. Naruto turned to the pink-haired girl sharply with little to no emotion at all before he looked away and regarded Kakashi with a nod. So, what are you going to do now? The way I see it, you didn't kill Zabuza, the scarecrow said as he flipped his porn open. Nothing. The mission specified me to only eliminate a threat to the Sharingan, the living weapon said curtly. Okay then, do you mind if we take those two along? The Junin asked, pointing to Haku and Zabuza with an inclination of his head. Doesn't matter, came the reply. The blonde then sniffed the air several times and glared at a tree exactly 56 meters away from him. What is it? The silver-haired pervert asked. Nothing, yet, Naruto said before he reached into his pockets and flopped down a soldier pill. 4x. Later that night, Konoha no Tsurugi stood on the eaves of Tazuna's house with a faraway look on his cold blue eyes, focusing on a cloud in the vast sky above. Something in your mind? Kakashi asked out of nowhere. Naruto looked at the Junin who had appeared from the ladder that led there and shrugged dismissively. I see then. Well, I'll be just downstairs if you need me, the tall man said as he dropped to the ground and mentally played a scene of hardcore porn in his mind. How long are you going to be there, Tayuya? The blonde asked calmly in a light-hearted voice. So you noticed me, the red-haired girl asked as she appeared in a vortex of dust. It'd be hard for me not to. What the fuck do you want now? Here to kill me now? I heard the new Konoha no Tsurugi is a bigger nutcase than the one before. Kill you? Where's the fun in that? Tayuya seethed in anger and yelled out, so you're gonna rape me then kill me? Rape you? No, because you see, I will make you suffer. Suffer more than any suffering you've felt before, the blue-eyed boy said. Now leave. We will be seeing each other more often. The foul-mouthed girl looked at the psychopath weirdly, but left nonetheless in great hurry, without failing to notice the crazy grin Konoha's living weapon had behind his mask. She couldn't see it, but she could feel it all too well. 4x. Your business done? The copy nin asked. Yes, Naruto answered as he entered the house's corridor via the window nearest to Haku and Zabuza's accommodation. I thought your mission was to protect Sasuke. No, my mission was to 1. Ensure the safety and activation of Sharingan, 2. Eliminate any threats to the Sharingan, 3. Assassinate Gedo. It specified nothing about you, student, Hataki-san, the smiling boy said before taking his mask off and proceeded to check up upon his two prisoners. Okay then, you want me to go? Please do.